Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Martine Williams, your Chief Encouragement Officer here on the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. I am really excited about today's episode, and this could be the episode that is your wake-up call. This could be the episode that helps you to prepare for what we're getting ready to move into, which is the busiest time of the year. So I hope you have your pen and your paper ready, because today we are going to be talking about all of the signs of burnout. Are you on the verge of a burnout? And I know that word gets used quite a bit, but it is a real thing. I've personally experienced it. You've heard my Turquoise Talks guests. Most people have experienced some form of burnout, and maybe even multiple times. I know I have, even just most recently, experienced signs and symptoms of burnout. And the important thing is that you recognize these signs and symptoms. It's not that you're never going to have seasons of burnout. Hopefully you will learn from today's episode what to look for, what to do to help prevent it, what to do to help treat it when you find yourself kind of in the midst of it. So we're going to just dive right into this. And I want to start out with a quote from Brene Brown. And she says, if you don't want to burn out, stop living like you're on fire. Stop living like you're on fire. And again, as we go into the holiday season, like this is like the pace that becomes normal. And the fast-paced life that we live every single day becomes faster. There's more people pulling at us. There's more expectations we have of one another. And I'm going to be covering on really the next few weeks of episodes. I'm really helping you to prepare well for the holidays. And so that the holidays are by design, for you to design and not by accident. And when you get to January, you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that, or I wish I wouldn't have done that. So stay tuned for those future episodes. But today, I really just want to bring to mind for you, what are some signs and symptoms of burnout? And burnout is what happens when you try to avoid being human for too long. Can I get an amen to that? When you try to avoid being human for too long and you try to become a superwoman, and you've heard me say that Lisa Turkos says it so well that, doing all the things and saying yes to everything doesn't make you superwoman. It makes you a super worn out woman. It leads to that crash and burn that I have seen, that I've coached women out of, that I've helped women to prevent. And I want to just bring this to the table for you today. So I'm going to share with you some of the signs and symptoms and some of the things that I've experienced when it comes to burnout. And as I'm listing these things out, I want you to kind of check on your piece of paper, like this is one you're experiencing right now. Okay. So the first one is absenteeism. Like this for me is the one that I notice the most, because I do a lot and I have a big energy tank. And you're going to hear more about that on a future episode with my friend Becca Johnson, who did a personality test with me. And it was super eye-opening. If you've been following me on Instagram, I kind of shared some of it with you. But so I can do a lot, and I love to do a lot. So when I find myself pulling back, when I find myself checking out, not just out of my business, but checking out of life, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And so then I start, seeking out wisdom. I start to try to plug in to the people that I can trust, because absenteeism, I know, is a sign of a burnout, of a crash and burn. Okay, so number 2 is isolation. So you can be checked out of life, but the next step is really isolating yourself from everyone. I was actually talking to a friend yesterday, and she was just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to be around people. That's isolation. Especially if you are more of an extroverted person and you're finding that you're pulling away from those things and those people that you're used to being plugged in with, that's a sign of burnout. And you could be experiencing one or all of these, okay? And there's no shame in this. Don't feel bad. You cannot make progress. You can't move forward if you don't acknowledge where you are today. So isolation. The third one is overreact. So you have extreme responses to everyday situations, like the toilet paper roll that's not on the toilet paper roll, but beside the toilet paper roll, or the laundry that's not in the laundry basket, but beside the laundry basket. Like you overreact. You have extreme responses to everyday situations. Those things happen, at least in my home, hashtag boy mom. Those things happen every single day. But when you start having extreme responses, you're on edge. You may be on your way to a crash and burn. Number 4 is exhaustion. So maybe you're feeling physical or emotional exhaustion. Typically for me, it's more of the emotional side than the physical side. But are you feeling more exhausted than usual? Which shouldn't even be usual. Like I say that, I'm like, we should not be walking around exhausted all day, every day. Like something has to change if that is how you're feeling every single day. And we have seasons. Listen, moms, if you're listening, you have littles, that's a season. And you do feel exhausted almost every day. But there are ways to find pockets of time for rest and the nooks and crannies of nap times. And there's ways to navigate that. So if you're feeling exhaustion physically or emotionally, that's a red flag. All right. Our next one is extreme thinking or irrational thoughts. You'll start saying things like, nothing I do matters. Like nothing I do matters. Or I will never be able to become XYZ, or I will never be the mom that they want, or I will never, you fill in the blank there. Like extreme irrational thoughts go through your head. That could be a sign of burnout. The next one is repeatedly making mistakes. So if you're constantly making mistakes, you're usually like on your game, you have your list, you run from your list, but you're forgetting things, you're repeatedly making mistakes, then you could be on the verge of a burnout. Decrease in passion is the next one. This is another big one for me. When I'm feeling low in my passion for my work, for life, for the things that usually like just fuel me, then I know I'm burning out, or I'm heading in that direction. So maybe that's you today. Maybe you have lost that love and feeling for your business, for your family even, right? And the last one is the blame game. So it's really hard to look in the mirror at ourselves and the decisions that we've made or not have made, and start blaming everyone else for where we're at today. And one of my favorite things, you've heard me say this before, from Andy Andrews' book, the not success principles, the Traveler's Gift, is, when we blame, we give away the power to other things. And so if we're blaming other things and other situations for where we are today, then we give away our power to do anything about it. But when you're burnt out, you're like, I don't really care. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's that fault. The biggest blame game we have going on right now is COVID. And I'm not saying COVID's not real, because y'all know I was sick for a very long time with it. I'm still experiencing some symptoms from COVID. So it's a real thing. But when we find ourselves in the constant or consistency of blaming other things and other people for where we are today, for our happiness or our unhappiness, our joy, our fulfillment, our purpose, our passion, then there's something that's a red flag. We've got to investigate that a little bit more. So just like, when someone's having a heart condition, they have all these little symptoms, right, that start showing up. before the big heart attack. Sometimes, not all the time. And then there's some silent things that are going on underneath, uncovered, that they don't even realize is going on. So, blood pressure, hypertension is called the silent killer, because you may have zero symptoms going on, but there's turmoil going on the inside that you have no idea. So these are just things that you're able to see on the outside. And there may be some others. I know for, one of my guests, Cindy Monroe, she talked about her burnout was more of like, it would go in that decrease in passion. So she didn't feel tired. She was uninspired. And maybe that's what your burnout looks like. You get to define that for yourself. But here's the deal. You can do anything, but not everything. I want you to hear that. You can do anything, but not everything. And as we move into, again, this season where it's just holiday hustle and we're going, and we're buying, and we're doing all these things, you can do anything, but not everything. If you want to avoid burnout, if you want to actually enjoy those moments and not have any of those moments pass you by because you were too busy to catch them, too busy to experience them to their fullest extent. So burnout is linked to underperformance, low self-esteem, and feelings of hopelessness. I've experienced all three in different seasons of my life. But here's the part that I think a lot of people don't realize about burnout is the physical impacts on your brain. It enlarges the part of our brain that controls the emotional reactions and can increase moodiness. Like that's a physical thing that's happening in your body as it relates to burnout. So it also thins the prefrontal cortex. That's the part that's responsible for cognitive functioning. Like think about that. It also weakens the part of the brain that controls memory and attention span. Makes it more difficult to learn. So if you're just having a hard time grasping something, maybe you're trying to learn a new skill in your business and you're just having a hard time grasping that, or you're finding you're forgetful about things. Your attention span is like zero. It went from like 5 seconds to 0 seconds. Then those are all signs and symptoms and what physically is happening. This was the most eye-opening thing to me when I was studying more about burnout. Is that people in a state of burnout show similar damage to their brains as those who have experienced trauma. Those who have experienced trauma and someone who's in burnout have the same damage to their brain, show similar damage to their brain. Burnout is not a joke. It's not something to be like, oh, I'm burnt out today and this just is how it is. And one day I'll get back to not running around like I'm on fire. It's one of those things where, we've made all of these drastic adjustments with the virus, right? We've quarantined, we've worn masks, we've done all the things. And yet chronic illnesses related to stress, aka burnout, will kill more people than this virus will. It has and will continue to. But we don't do anything about it. We just think it's normal. We just think, well, one day I'll get back to that. Or this is just how every woman does business. This is how every other mompreneur is doing her business and doing life. And it's just does not have to be that way. And that's really my passion and my design for building this podcast is to remix what mompreneur life looks like. You can be successful and have peace and joy and fulfillment in your business without running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So what are some solutions? Like what are some things that you could be doing right now to help with that? So if any or all of those you checked off as you were listening, and I'll go back through them one more time. So absenteeism, isolation, you overreact, you're exhausted physically or emotionally, you have extreme thinking or irrational thoughts, you're repeatedly making mistakes, decrease in passion, or you're playing the blame game, like it's everybody else's fault. Then those are some of the symptoms. And again, you may have some other ones, but those are generally speaking the ones that show up the most. So here are some solutions. Number one, exercise. You may not know this, but in my previous life, prior to becoming my own entrepreneur, I was an exercise physiologist and worked in a cardiac rehab facility for 7 years. And I've seen burnout and what it's done to young and old. I know how important exercise is for so many different things. And I know some of you right now are checking out, you're rolling your eyes. You're like, yeah, but I don't like to exercise. And I think it's because you may have a certain picture in your head of what exercise should look like because you're comparing exercise that someone else is doing to what you think you have to do. And you just need to move your body. You just need to move your body consistently, daily, 30 minutes. And if you have to break that out into 15-minute chunks, just start somewhere and start moving your body. You will sleep better. You will immediately have those endorphins released in your body to help decrease your stress. I mean, there's so many things. Maybe I'll do a whole episode just on exercise. But that is one of the number one things you can do to help with burnout. The second thing, and this is specifically to the business side of your business, but check your own why. If you're feeling uninspired or kind of burnout in the business, like really go back and revisit why you started the business in the first place or why you have stayed in the business. And if you can't answer those questions, then ask another question. Just keep asking yourself questions and unpeel that onion and see what comes up and be open to what comes up because it may not be what you were looking for. It may not be the answer that you thought would come up in that, or that's the popular answer. But this is where you have to design your life and your business and to know why you're doing what you're doing. If not, what's the point of getting up and running your business if you've lost sight of why you're even doing it in the first place? Simon Sinek, I love him. He talks about the golden circle. People buy, they buy why you do it, not what you do, right? So they buy what you do or why you do it, not what you do. And he talks about the golden circle. The center is the why, and then you have the how and then the what on the outside. And people typically start with the what instead of talking about the who, the why on the inside. I hope I said that right. I'm trying to trace this out with my hands. But just recently, a friend shared, and this will be my future guest, Rebecca Johnson, talked about, she loved the golden circle, but he misses just one little thing, and that is who you are. So who you are as a mompreneur. Maybe you've lost sight of who she is. Maybe you've become someone that you don't need to be, or that you don't want to be, or that's not truly you to build this business. And now you're burnt out, and now you've lost your passion, and now you're checking out of it. So there are, and this is so fascinating. I cannot wait to have Becca come on, but I just want you to think about, not only are you checking your why, but you're also checking on who you are. Are you still the person? I was just reading a post today where a fellow entrepreneur was talking about, she's kind of been in a rut, and she, the visions and the dreams that she had, and what, the coaches are telling her she should do and who she should become. And she said, I was, on a hike and was really just, praying to God and asking him for this sign. Give me a sign. What am I supposed to do next? Right? How many of you want that? I want all the next steps, Lord. Please just give me all the next steps and give me the signs that I'm making the right decision, right? We want that. And so she was doing that. And then her mom called, and her mom was just sharing with her how when she was a little girl, she used to line all of her dolls up, and she would do it for hours and upon days and talk to her dolls, teaching them and training and speaking to them. And she said in that moment, she just started to cry. And I actually was crying reading her post because I could just visualize her running back to who she really is. And she said, I just returned to home. I returned to who I am, and not listening to what everybody else was saying, but being true to who I am and what I want to do, which is speak, train, and support. Right? That's where she's a comedian. She's hilarious. I would love to have her on the show. I actually might reach out to her and see if I can have her on the show. Her name is Angie Lee. You can look her up on Instagram. I think it's at Angie Lee is her Instagram handle. But she is funny. If you don't like humor, you don't want to follow her for sure. But she's super smart. But that is, also who you are, returning to who you are. Have you lost yourself in the process? So another solution would be a social media diet. Maybe part of your burnout and your feelings of absenteeism and overwhelm and overreact is coming from everything you're seeing on social media. And let's just face it, it has been a dark world on social media for a long time. So maybe you just need to go on a social media diet. Like you can do that right now when you get off of this podcast. You can go on there and delete your social media app. Or maybe there's certain people that you are following that are discouraging, that add to your stress level, that are finding a problem for every solution. And you just need to unfollow that person for a season. Maybe you need to go on a distraction diet, remove all distractions. Not all, let's just be honest. We can't remove them all, but minimize the distractions that you have so that you can spend some time quietly thinking through where you're at and being brutally honest with yourself with where you're at and where you want to go next, where this burnout is coming from. Number 4 is goal setting. Like maybe spend some time setting some new goals. Maybe that'll get you excited or kind of get you focused back in on your business. Learn a new skill. And if for me, I am a life learner. I love to learn new things. Sometimes that can be a crutch because in moving forward in business, like you have to take action. You have to slow your learn so you can earn, right? But I love to learn. So I will just keep learning and learning. And that is my default. If I feel like I'm stuck or I feel like, things aren't moving as fast as I should, I start to go back into learning mode, which is not always a good thing because it could be I just need to take more action and take more dramatic action in the right direction. So, but maybe learning a new skill, maybe create a learning bucket for, all the things that you want to learn to do. Maybe something new. This past week, I was supposed to go to an event, a women's event that was, y'all, this is, if you know me, I'm not a craft girl. I'm not into that kind of stuff typically, but this was like turning a wine bottle into like planting succulents in that. Again, I don't even know what you call it, but it was going to be like this really pretty like picnic thing outside where you're going to be sitting on the grass, have this picnic company coming in and you get a glass of Prosecco and you make this succulent thing. Well, it rained, so we decided not to go to it. But like those kinds of things get me excited because I have a black thumb. Like I'm not typically someone who likes to mess with plants, but it was the experience that it was going to create. So maybe create a learning bucket for all the things that you want to do. Number 5 is break it down into bite-sized chunks. So life can be very overwhelming. And again, going into this next season, break it down. Break it down now into bite-sized chunks. Like break down the responsibilities. What are things that only you can do? And what are some things you can delegate out? We talked about this. I'm going to talk about it some more. I'm going to designate a whole episode in the next couple of weeks to delegation, but breaking it down to bite-sized chunks so it doesn't seem so overwhelming and actually makes it not so overwhelming. Number 6, talk it out with a friend. This is my go-to. This is the one. I don't tend to isolate. I can check out, but I run to the phone and I run to the throne too, but I definitely talk it out with a friend. Number 1, my husband, he's my biggest supporter and listener, but I have my small circle, and I mean small circle of women that I trust that I can just be real with and just take off the CEO hat, the Chief Encouragement Officer, which is super hard for me to do, and just be real and say, I'm not feeling it. I'm burnt out. I'm uninspired. Like these are conversations that I've had even in the last 6 months. So some of this is raw for me too. So who do you have someone that you can talk to and talk through some of these things with? The value of a friendship, a true friendship that will say what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear, is so important. And if you don't have that, how can you seek that out? Maybe you're so busy with your to-do list that you haven't allowed time to nurture relationships. Maybe you used to have some of those friends in your life and you've let them go for whatever reason. No shame, but relationships have to be nurtured on both ends. Okay, number 7. This is going to be another eye roll, and I'm sure, just like the exercise was, but evaluate your diet. Evaluate your diet. If you're putting trash in, you're going to get trash out. Same thing with your mindset. But if you're eating crap, then you're going to get crap results in how you feel, how you sleep, how productive you are. So evaluate your diet and just know that every person is different. one diet. I don't even like to use the word diet, but one nutritional lifestyle is not one size fits all. It's just not. And so make one change, evaluate your diet, and then make one change moving forward. Maybe it's you need to become more hydrated. Maybe you need to, set up a hydration system for yourself so that you're at least staying hydrated. And just doing that one healthy thing will motivate you to make other healthy habits. It's a domino effect for sure, but don't leave out diet, evaluate your diet. All right, number 8, consider new opportunities for 24 hours before saying yes. Y'all, this is huge. Consider new opportunities for 24 hours before saying yes. If you're a people pleaser, if you're the yes girl and you've always been the yes girl, this is going to be a big one for you. Stop just saying yes out of habit or out of reaction or fear that if you say no, someone's going to be upset with you or someone's going to call you a mean girl. Because they don't know your life. They're not living your life. They don't know the life you're trying to create. And so consider new opportunities for 24 hours before you say yes. And you can just tell them, I'm going to have to get back to you on that. That's not mean, but that's not saying yes. And if you know it's a no and you say yes, or you say, maybe I'll get back to you, or you say yes, and then you got to go back and cancel it, y'all, that just prolongs the process and adds more emotions to it. So let your yes be yes and your no be no, but give yourself 24 hours before saying yes. Number 9, schedule fun and social connection. Schedule fun. And so even if you're like, I don't want to do that. Like there have been so many events and things that I did not want to go to, but I knew it was the place of most potential for me to get out of the funk, to get out of the burnout, to have that human connection, which I thrive on. So schedule fun and social connection. It doesn't have to be a huge event with lots of girls or friends. It could be schedule a date night. It could be schedule something, fun, a movie night with the family, but schedule something fun and something that has you socially connected to the people that matter most to you. Because in burnout, remember, isolation is one of the symptoms. Like you're going to tend to want to isolate. Okay, number 10, start your day with gratitude. And we've heard this for years, but you cannot be grateful and complaining at the same time. You can't be focused on your burnout and the things aren't going well right now if you're being thankful for the things that are great right now. And there are a lot of good things going on in your life right now. We're just not choosing to see them. We're in a place of burnout. We're not in that mindset. So if you have your list, and that's the first thing you do every day is write out, 1 to 3, maybe even 5 things that you're grateful for. Pat Flynn, who is a huge podcaster, he's actually been kind of a virtual coach for me in launching this podcast, says get out of self and into service. When you're in that place, get out of self and into service. And when you can be grateful for the things that you do have, it changes. And it changes your mindset. And it could be the littlest things, y'all. It doesn't have to be like these amazing things that are going on in your life. It could be you're thankful for your favorite lip gloss that came back in stock, or you're thankful that you got one gift off your Christmas list already. I mean, today I knocked like 10 gifts off my list, and I'm super excited because I'm not typically that ahead of the game. I'm one of those last minute shoppers. But what can you start your day with in gratitude for? Number 11 was drink more water. I talked about that when we talked about nutrition. And then the last one is dream a new dream. Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's another legacy for you to live out. Maybe there's another experience that God has for you, or another purpose that God has for you. I don't think we have this one big grandiose purpose. I think our past struggles become our present purposes. So maybe you need to dream a new dream. And it could be in the current business that you're in, or it could be there's something else. But dreaming outside of just paying your bills every day and dreaming outside of the norm, it just kind of gets your mind into a positive place moving forward. Not that dream's going to come true the next day. It takes work, right? It takes work to build a dream out and to live that out. But dreaming is fun. Dreaming is fun. So maybe dream a new dream. Okay, so you've had signs and symptoms of burnout, and those were some 12, kind of solutions that I wanted to share with you today. And there is a couple of quotes that I wanted to end the episode with that I came across just recently. And the first one says, perfectionism. Perfectionism is hustling in an effort to be accepted and approved, but no matter what we do, it's just not enough. So we do more. This is unsustainable and leads to burnout. It's hustling in an effort to be accepted and approved, but no matter what we do, how many feel like that? No matter what I do, it's just not enough. So what's your response? I'm just going to do more. I actually have a coaching client that was kind of stuck in that rut. I'm just going to do more. And at the end of the day, she's in tears because nothing was ever enough. Nothing was ever enough, not for her family and really more not for her. At the end of the day, she never felt like it was enough. And so we had to have some hard conversations, and I had to just kind of bring this to light for her in our coaching together is, what is enough for you? Like, she needed to define that. If you haven't defined what's enough, because all you can do is all you can do, and that is enough, then you're just going to keep trying to do more and more and more and more and more, trying to be the perfect mom, the perfect mompreneur, the perfect, you fill in the blank there. It's unsustainable, and it will lead to burnout. And I see it day in and day out. So, number one, are you showing any of these signs of burnout? As I read through those, are you showing any signs of burnout? Number two, are you willing to put some of those solutions into place, either from a preventative standpoint or to help treat your current state of burnout? I started with Brene Brown, and I'm going to end with Brene Brown. She said, it takes courage to say yes to rest and play in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a status symbol. Will you be courageous today to say yes to rest, to say yes to taking care of yourself, to say yes to stopping the burnout that you're on the verge of, or to treating the burnout that you have found yourself in the midst of? I'd love for you to come follow me on Instagram, send me a DM, let me know how this episode spoke to you. And if there's anything I can do to support you, y'all know this is my mission, my passion. This is really why I started this podcast. It's why I have my coaching. You don't have to live the life on the fast train all the time, all day, every day. That is not how we were designed to live. And so I'm here to support you. So that's it for today's episode. Y'all know I love you. I mean it. And I am believing in you always. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link, share this episode, or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.